Hi, welcome to the Season 2 premiere of The Weekly Wave. I'm Matthew Lyons.
And I'm Aaron Johnson.
And our special guest here today is Superintendent Mr. Peter Schaefer. How are you, Mr. Schaefer?
I'm great. Good afternoon, and I appreciate that you have me on.
Yeah, welcome back to
Definitely.
the show. I mean, Season 2, starting off with a bang.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
new coming back here. Last year we talked more about like what your new term was, and up until 2023. This year we kind of want to know who the real Peter Schaefer is.
Yeah. Take away the mask of mystery.
I will do my best. Unfortunately, under the mask is probably just another mask, and then another mask. No, pretty boring guy, guys. I'll try to make this exciting. You know, if I'm driving over the speed limit, it's like 5 miles over the speed limit. That's it. I use my directionals. You know, basically, if I'm not at work, I've got 3 kids. My kids are older. And so my wife now and I are empty nesters. I have 2 girls in college, though, and they're both playing college sports. So it's a fall sport, so we spend a lot of time watching them play. And when I'm not doing that, I've got to catch up on the grass and the leaves like everybody else. I just got my backyard done. Again, probably doesn't make for exciting cable, but it took me 9 hours to do my leaves
We
all
could
by
literally
myself.
watch grass grow.
Well, my kids are excited because they don't have to help me when they come home for Thanksgiving because I got the leaves done. Those are the really exciting things behind the scenes. Behind the mask, that's what's going on.
All right, so I'm going to start right away and ask you what I think is the most important question I could ask anyone, and that is, what is your favorite movie?
Wow, favorite movie. Okay. I'm going to go probably old school on you. Papillon, Cool Hand Luke, those are old school movies that nobody's going to know what the heck I'm talking about.
I'm about to say, that was a little past my time.
My kids keep telling me I've got to watch the new Avengers movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which I haven't seen yet because in order to see that, I'm supposed to watch all the movies up to it, so I really understand what's going on.
That's true.
So, favorite movie? Current movie? Is it okay that I tell you I really liked the first Zombieland movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually just
Is that
saw
okay?
Zombieland
2 like 2 weeks ago.
Right. I know that's not probably, I should probably pick something a little more intelligent or artistic. But I really like that movie.
Yeah,
I
it's a good
like
one.
Woody Harrelson.
He's awesome.
So that's the honest, exciting answer.
That's a great answer.
So
I'm going to derail the conversation a little bit. New year, new term. And we just got the flex block initiated. Is there anything new that you're going to incorporate into this year that the teachers or the school committee, anybody has been talking about that's going to happen this year?
So a couple of the things that are going on are things, it takes more than one shot to pull things off the right way.
Yeah.
So the one-to-one initiative. We did a lot of training around that before you guys even got laptops. We're still working on that. We're still trying to create lessons that are more computer-based because they're also more student-centered and more individualized for students. Computers allow people to work at their own pace, and they create a personal experience. So although that's not a new thing, we want to continue on with that and more project-based type assessments, things that are more hands-on.
Yeah.
I think this room is an example of that. The work that you guys are doing is project-based. And with this laboratory that is a state-of-the-art media center, you can do anything. You could be doing, any subject area. You could produce and publish information, edit, and that's just one side of the house. There's the technical side of the house in terms of the graphic design, in terms of the work that goes into it, math, English, science, social studies, the arts. This room is an example of that. What we want to do is we want to continue with that student-engaged, student-centered type of work. So it's not just computers, but it's in all areas. The social-emotional piece is an important one. We've got our buildings now in a different configuration between grades. And for years, students went from one building to the next in grades 1 through 4, and then we shifted everything around. So now that we're, K2, we're 3-4, we're 5-8, we're 9-12. Well, how are we doing in those transitions between grades so that students coming to the middle school, are they prepared? Are they ready? You're working on, the faculty's working on the vision of a graduate at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
We're also working on a vision of a graduate from each of the other school buildings. So what do we want a second grader to be prepared to do when they hit third grade? What do we want a fourth grader to be able to do when they hit fifth grade? What do we want eighth graders to be able to do when they hit ninth grade? I don't know what your experience was, and I could try to turn the interview around on you.
Flip the tables.
Maybe just a little bit. But when you got to high school, were you ready for ninth grade? And what can we do better to prepare you for ninth grade? And then the end game is preparing 12th graders to go out and do whatever it is that they want to do that's exciting. And that's not to get too much on a soapbox, but that's our place in this democracy.
Yeah.
That's how a free society distributes its opportunities so that everybody has a chance at the American dream. And so we work with you all to create that. And, how are we doing along the way? So we're spending a lot of time with that social emotional piece around social emotional intelligences that students have as they move through the system so that they can be best ready for life after school. We don't want to just have the step between grade 4 and grade 5 be a jump, or between grade 8 and grade 9 be a jump, or it starts in the preschool. So as a system, we're spending a lot of time working on that. So although those aren't really new, there's a greater emphasis on those two things in particular, because that's what we owe the students we serve. And that was a long answer.
It was a good answer.
That's what we're working on.
Yeah, taking away a little bit from what you just said, I love the project-based learning piece. Myself, that's really one of the only ways I can learn. I'm taking an engineering course and we build bridges and things like that. So I love that you're incorporating those project-based learning skills. And as for the transition for grades, I feel like everything comes with a little bit of a learning curve, but you get used to it and it's awesome.
Yeah, it was never anything too steep. I never felt like first week that I was unprepared. It felt like a gradual increase in difficulty in tests as well as the curriculum, but it was never anything that kind of took away from the learning experience.
This is maybe an experience that you guys have had. I'm guessing it is. Friend groups change when you go from one time in your life to another time in your life to another time in your life. And for a student, sometimes a friend group changing can feel all-consuming, coming down on you, really hit you hard. And that's actually just a natural sort of progression through a developmental process. You have common interests with a group of students who are younger, and those interests change as you develop your own interests. Well, that group of friends you had that was, into one thing has evolved into a different group of friends. And that happens, I think, naturally a couple of times through your progression through school. So, how are we helping students manage that? How are we making them able to best be able to handle that on their own? Because we want to build resiliency in students. It's not just enabling students to get through something. It's teaching them the skills so that they can get through those things on their own, so that they can be strong and successful individuals. So some people look at it as just, we're babying people. Well, we're trying to get them through difficult times and then help them with individual resources, individual skills, so that they can get through those things on their own. Because my father-in-law used to say, and I think it's true, life is good, but it's not always fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've got to prepare people for how to handle things.
So when we had you here last year, you mentioned that this is your so-called final chapter.
Yeah.
Here at working at Abington. So I wanted to know, does knowing that and always having that in the back of your head, Does that distract you, or does that help you kind of focus?
It's funny. You asked that. It actually helps me focus more. Not that I've ever had a problem being focused. I've had the benefit of when I wake up, I believe in what I do. I believe that what we all do, I feel like I'm a part of a really big, important thing. It's not about me. It's not about any one individual. It's about the students that we serve and that mission that we have. And whether it's, you call it our mission in our democracy, so that we can be a strong democracy, or it's a mission for humanity, to help humanity. Look at the problems that we have with, you name it, global warming or violence or shootings or you name it. The best way to solve those problems is proactively through educating people, making them strong, resilient individuals. And so I believe in that. I don't think any one person has the answers, but as a collective group, there's some power and we can do some good in the world. And so I've never had trouble being motivated doing this job. But then also personally, I don't ever want to be the kind of person who mails it in. So I've got a long way to go in this final chapter. I've got years left. But it takes time to implement something that's meaningful, that has real change, that really, I think, does the work that needs to be done for people. There are daily storms at sea that have to be managed. We've been through some tragedies, and with families or students, there are always budget threats. There's always threats with resources. Those are more day to day or year to year. But those long-term, trying to do something right, trying to do something good, goals take time. And I personally, I need that. I need to be doing something like that for myself, to be a part of something like that. So the stress about wanting to finish strong is just who I am. I mentioned to you guys to tell you the story about the key. So this is the key to the first classroom I had.
Oh, wow.
In Springfield, Massachusetts. This opened the door of an old building, poor kids in a part of the city that was just really tough part of the city. Loved that first chapter being a teacher. Still miss it. It was a brief time. Became an assistant principal. I really appreciated the impact you can have in people's lives, in administration also. And then, became a principal, became a business manager, became superintendent of schools. And so looking back on that, I feel good about my service, and I just want to finish strong. Mm-hmm. So both on one side, being motivated to want to take care of people, do right and good in the world for Abington, and then also the internal piece, wanting to finish strong, provides me a focus.
Yeah,
is the answer to the question. And I want to tell you something about Abington. It's a good, great, wonderful place to be. People are good, and although we have tough moments and tough times, the outpouring of kindness and supporting each other happens much, much, much more than the negative and the bad by a small number of people. And it's easy to lose focus on that. Abington is a town that's always had its own sense of pride and its own identity. One of the things I've always loved about Abington is Abington doesn't want to be anybody else. Abington doesn't want to be some town around here. Abington wants to be Abington. And sometimes there are some weaknesses in that because there are some changes we need to make. We don't want to be too stuck in the past. But there's also some wonderful values in that about wanting to be a community that takes care of each other. And I see that in this community. And so I also, I don't want to let this community down in my final, phase, I'll call it, of my career. I want to make sure that things are in good order. And I can go on and on. I don't mean to, but You know,
I find it fascinating. to be
Yeah.
honest, yeah. Like you're someone who honestly you really care so much about this community, about all the programs. You put so much thought into what you do, and I guess just thank you.
no, I appreciate that. No thanks is needed. I appreciate that I get to do this. I'm very lucky when I wake up. I want to do this. I want to be here. I'm lucky to be a part of it. So I mean that, sincerely. So
Thank you.
Awesome. I have nothing further. That was moving.
That was. I feel like that's a good moment to end on.
to go to the
The
Guessing
next
it.
the next phase of the Weekly Wave.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Tune in Friday to see the first ever episode of our new show, Guessing It, and tune in Tuesday to see a brand new episode of the Weekly Wave.
Make sure to follow us on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at the Green Wave Gazette.
Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.